Hello and welcome to Teach Me in 10. For this episode, we're joined by Sebastian Weber, a product manager for digital solutions at Sartorius. Sebastian discusses the challenges preventing labs from achieving true digitalization and explains how connected weighing solutions can simplify instrument integration, strengthen compliance, and support secure, seamless data management. Hi, Sebastian. Thanks for joining us. So let's start with the basics and talk about what the biggest barrier is when labs try to connect instruments like balances to systems like LIMS or ELN.
Yeah, hi everybody. So the biggest challenge in the lab digitalization is that instruments and lab software always speak different languages. So you could think about an instrument was built to be used by humans and not to connect or to communicate to digital systems. So therefore, there is no common protocol standard what you can easily use like USB to make a plug-and-play connection from your instrument into your LIMS, ELN, or ERP system. So therefore, mostly connections are custom projects, very expensive, fragile, hard to validate, and at the end, it slows down the digitalization of labs.
And this brings us now to Cubis 3. It fits whether labs are still running legacy systems or have already moved to a modern cloud setup. Can you explain why that matters?
Yeah, we want to build with Cubis 3 really an instrument what helps you to perform your digitalization journey in the lab. So Cubis 3 puts the intelligence into the instrument so that you don't need a separate vendor-specific software for this. And we can here talk to older system. So if you have already a LIMS connection or a software what still use a serial connection, we have built it into Cubis 3. We can work with laboratory printers, but you have on the balance all the digitalization functions like user management, but you can still then work paper-based and print out everything. But also we focus a lot of modern open protocols to connect Cubis directly to your LIMS, ELN, whether it's locally installed or it's running in the cloud.
That's great. And compliance is another big consideration. Why is compliance often seen as a roadblock to digitalization, and does it have to be?
No, I don't think it has to be, because compliance is often treated as extra work with a lot of paperwork, with slowdowns projects in the end, and creates a lot of fear to change anything because I have to do a lot of work then. So therefore, teams are very worried about to make new connectivity because they think they have big validation burden or audit risk. But at the end, it doesn't have to be a roadblock. When you think about compliance, like data integrity, audit trails, and electronic signatures are very smart built into the instrument itself from the start. It becomes more an enabler to make your work easier than to slow down your processes and too hard to use. Because I think we need more the shift in a mindset to say it's not compliance versus digitalization. It's more like digitalization brings compliance by design and helps you to speed up the adopting to modern technologies and reduce the compliance risk instead of slowing it down in the end.
Yeah, perfect. And can you talk us through now maybe an example, say how Cubis 3 supports electronic records and electronic signatures?
Yeah, with Cubis 3, we built or we integrate really the data integrity principles, so the Alcoa Plus principles during the development, and we're very focusing on this. So that means electronic records will be created directly on the instrument because we think it makes sense to have not only the weighing results, all the metadata captured on the instrument level and then transferred to an upper level system, because then this makes it easier to integrate on one hand, but on other hand, you have the trusted result directly created on the instrument level. Therefore, the balance create the electronics on the instrument, and you have also the first electronic signature on the instrument. So a user don't have to sign off maybe in a LIMS system. He can directly, after he has finished his weighing job, create the electronic signature, fully 21 CFR Part 11 compliant on the instrument, and don't have to go to another computer system. Therefore, you can make sure that the electronic signature is done. And on the other hand, the user don't have to go away from his work. He can directly on time do it on the instrument.
That makes it much more simple having it all on the same instrument. And connectivity isn't just about the instruments themselves. How do open standards like OPC UA and web service change the conversation between labs and their IT departments?
We focus during the development not only to support the legacy protocols, because they are today very often used. We also focus more and more on modern IT standards like OPC, UA, and web services, because these standards are vendor neutral. They are very secure, support encryption and other IT or cybersecurity functionalities, and they are already well documented and known by most of the IT departments. So they already understand and trust these protocols, and this makes for them the integration also easier than to handle maybe a unknown mystery protocol. So OPC UA is a standard from the automation environment, but we see also that it becomes more and more adoption in the lab space. So there are already LIMS vendors what support OPC UA, and it brings a kind of plug and play into the laboratory, because when the software knows how the instrument can be connected or what language the instrument speaks, there's not much effort then to integrate the instrument. On the other hand, the web service interface is more a lightweight, very flexible option, what gives, on one hand, developers a lot of flexibility, maybe to integrate it in AI applications or into robotics applications, but also for the cloud-based integrations is web services a quite interesting protocol. And also here we have the full documentation that a developer could directly start to implement Cubus into their projects.
That's brilliant. And finally, looking ahead, how will connectivity and compliance requirements evolve for labs over the next few years or so?
Yeah, I think there will be a big involvement in the future, because I think we are just in the beginning of the AI area, and especially with the labs, we are a bit far behind because of all these digitalization and also the compliance burden what we have. But I expect that we continue move away from all these proprietary protocols more to open standardized protocols like OPC UA and web services to make the integration much easier and have also more features or flexibility in terms of integration. Then, on the other hand, cybersecurity becomes more and more important. We have in Europe, for example, the Cyber Resilience Act, what will go alive, and this will keep pushing vendors to retire legacy protocols and insecure protocols and go also more on standards. And on the other hand, I think we have to be looking what brings AI in the future and how can an instrument support AI use cases in the future. So therefore, in the Cubus balance, we have already integrated an MCP server. So that means an AI client, like, maybe ChatGPT, could directly connect to the balance, can talk to the balance, and, for example, create a recipe or something else. And I think these use cases or these possibilities will also grow more and more in the future, because it helps, on one hand, lab scientists to make their daily work much more easier. They don't have to know too much technical details when they can talk maybe with a chatbot to configure and work with the balance. And on the other hand, the life for the IT departments will also be easier when we go more in the standardized direction with not a lot of converters and middleware to streamline also their daily work.
Perfect. It sounds like the Cubis 3 really will prepare labs for the future. Thank you, Sebastian, for joining and for sharing your insights.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this episode of Teach Me in 10, brought to you by Sartorius. To learn more about the Cubis 3 Lab Balance portfolio and how connected, compliant weighing solutions can help support your lab's digital transformation, check out the links in the description. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more episodes. Bye for now.